welcome to the Canary TV. We're on live after those lunatics on Loose Men who seem to have been having a lot of fun with their technology. Thank you for everyone who's been tuning in. Do feel free to share this link with other people. Tonight we're going to have a little bit of a serious chat, as has become our way on a Tuesday and a Thursday night, with Ms. Nicky Gordon of Ask Nicky, who does a hell of a lot of work for people who need to get their different types of paperwork done here on Gran Canaria, especially the non-Spanish speakers. Joining us from Sardina del Hollywood live. Nicky, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I've actually managed to set up my new laptop that I got in a sale for €200, and it's working.
Wonderful, wonderful. And how are you feeling? We haven't seen you since Thursday. You disappeared off and said no calls for a while. Have you had a chance to have a bit of a relax? You're looking relaxed.
No. Really? No. It's human nature. The whole idea was I post the information. That's all the information I've got. So please, when new information comes up, then I will post it. But it didn't quite happen like that. So I've had twice as many messages as normal. But I do understand, because there's a few issues at the moment regarding people's work contracts that still haven't been told.
When you give us a little rundown of some of the hot topics you're seeing, what people are writing to you about over the last few days? Obviously, we've seen a lot of different things going on, an extension to the lockdown here in Spain, even though there have been some green shoots of hope here in the Canary Islands, and perhaps some a little bit too early statements about us possibly being already through the worst of it. Time will tell. We'll find out. But tell us a little bit more about what have you been hearing? What are people being concerned about, and what have you been noticing?
Right. The major update of the week was, and this we have to wait for, people are clapping. The village is clapping. I can hear it tonight. They're actually all out on the streets clapping, so it's working. Basically, we're doing really well. Thanks to the government, the police, the health authorities, the supermarket workers, the lockdown is working. We've passed our peak, and we're now one of the, if not the first, one of basically the people that have got the best results. The amount of people that are contagious, the amount of people that have died, unfortunately, we're doing really well. Talking about relax the lockdown. Lockdown does not mean you get in your car and you go and see your friends, or you sneak round to your friends' houses. No, it's still individual. We have to stop the contagion of the coronavirus. So basically what they're saying is if by about the 12th, there's no date confirmed, the figures keep on leveling out, that they're going to look to actually allow children to go out with the parents for an hour, because they need the vitamin D, they need to run. They've been so good, and some of them don't have gardens, don't have terraces. The other thing was personal for adults, that one person can go out walking, running, jogging alone for an hour a day. And the third one, they were looking at opening some of the workplaces. Now, they haven't specified which one.
None of that come in just yet, though, has it? These are suggestions for how they might start to roll out a relaxation.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of comments about, you can go and meet your friends. No, this is still isolation. All it is to give us the feeling that Sweden and the UK have had up to now, which is exercise time. The problem is it's very hard to control, because when you've got young kids or teenage kids, it's easy to pop round to their friends, and this is not the point. Every time we leave our house and we go to the supermarket, the pharmacy, we go to the post office, there's a possibility that we're bringing it back into our household. And then it's another 2 weeks before we can actually say, no, I haven't got it. This is, it's not rocket science, but it's obvious. So people are saying, yeah, but I've been in for 3 weeks now. No, you haven't been in for 3 weeks, because you went to do your shopping, you went to buy something from the pharmacy. If you have human contact, you're putting yourselves at risk again. So basically, everything's looking good, but don't get carried away.
Well, this is, I couldn't help but feel that the chief medical officer who's advising the Canary Islands government. On Friday night, he's the one who made this first sort of big statement. We'd heard some positive noises, and of course, we tried not to report on it for the first day or two. But then when the chief medical officer of the Canary Islands basically said, we're definitely over the worst of it, and we can definitely start thinking about relaxing, I couldn't help but feel perhaps he was just a little too early. I mean, he's an expert, I'm not. But I think a lot of people took that to mean we're through it and it's over. And of course, that's the wrong message.
Right, exactly, because there is still the lockdown. The lockdown is nothing to do with Gran Canaria. That is Spain. And basically, we are on lockdown until the 26th of April. What he's trying to do is to relax the isolation that they did last Monday, where they tightened up and prohibited movement. So yes, if you're going to work, you still need to justify. Yes, if you're self-employed, you still have to justify. We would all love the Ferreterias and Leroy Merlin to open up so we can make the most of it. I would give anything for a 5-litre tin of white paint and some hole filler. And I've looked everywhere. In the village, there's not even one of the little shops that have the tubes. It's the Chinese shops and they're closed. But it's a fair price to pay for being alive and keeping all the people around us alive. So I laugh about it. What I've done is I had a hammer and some hooks, and I've created these chill out areas and put photographs up.
How many chill out areas have you got now?
I couldn't show you because it was too dark. I could actually spin very gently. Right, we'll move over to my chill out area in the corner, which is a homage to my children.
Oh, how beautiful.
Who are all on the wall because they're not on Facebook, and they were dying to see me, and I couldn't get to you in time to ask you for the link. But Zach, miss you to hell. Sophia, miss you to hell. Love you to bits. Keep safe, and give my love to the family and all the kids down in the south. But it's important things.
Of course, like we're as with any of these shows, I mean, what we're doing here is fully experimental. We weren't prepared. Nobody was prepared, but we wanted to make sure there was some sort of theme of continuity for people to be able to plug into with some friendly faces, because we could see it was going to get tough, and it's starting to bite now, isn't it? People are starting to get really worried, aren't they?
I think now the problem is financial, and that's why when I messaged you before, there's very few of us on the island that have this huge pot of money in the background. And after 3 weeks of doing amazing shops, cooking amazing food, now's the time that the telephone bills are starting to come in and there's overheads. And now is the time to say, right, it's going to be the middle of May before anybody gets any of the benefits. If you're one of the very few that get it in April, fantastic. Congratulations. But they're saying there was 40 to 60,000 applications. They do need the time to process them. So now's the time to think, do I need all that chocolate? Do I need all that beer? Movie Star, when I called them, did not say that they will not cut you off. You have to ring them when your phone bill's due and not being paid and ask for assistance, which basically I see as they want the bill paid. They've given free fusion. It's their little help, but not everything comes free. And like most things at the moment on offer, nothing will be free. The electricity is going to build up, the water's going to build up, the telephone bills. And they've created this package for us with the self-employed loans and with the rental assistance.
It's quite complex, isn't it? I mean, at first we all thought, oh, thank goodness they're riding into the rescue. They're giving the brakes on rent, and they're going to help self-employed people. They're going to help people who are on contract but have had to go on temporary suspension because of the outage. And it looked for a while there like it's okay.
Pretty fantastic.
But from what I'm seeing, actually, Spain has been fairly well, I was going to say hard-nosed, but perhaps they're being very prudent. At the end of the day, you can't just stop everything in the economy unless you want many, many years of heartache. And so there's a lot of people going to be starting to become quite concerned now. What are we on the 7th? So a lot of people who would have been expecting wages should have had those in on the 5th. I don't know if you heard anything about employers paying for that first 14 days of March. Has anyone been paid by their employer? Do you know anything about that?
I personally, there's some people that have messaged me that have been.
Oh, really?
I cannot say. It's up to you to ring your bosses and say, look, these first 15 days, because it starts from the 15th or the 14th, which was the Saturday. So all those people should have been paid. They've either been paid and are waiting for their RT to come through, which is the temporary suspension that the bosses have sorted out for them. The unfortunate ones that their bosses decided to do it the not very nice way around, which was to finish them off completely, make them sign a contract which they didn't know they were signing off voluntarily, but it's done. So now we have to look at what can we do. Everybody that signed the ERTI, it was supposed to be through, they said it wasn't the 10th of April, it was running a little bit late. Now they're saying that there's only a percentage that will hit April and the rest will be May.
Right. So that's a long time for a lot of people. I mean, they say the numbers are something like 150,000 in the end who are supposed to be getting paid through the system. That's just the people who are on employment contract whose bosses didn't take the advantage of the situation. I suppose one of the biggest concerns that I've got is I've not heard anyone yet, especially not in official capacity, talk about the fact that that first 14 days of March should have been paid. As far as I can see, I don't see any reason why it wouldn't have been, other than people deciding that they were just going to, again, hold on to their money to see what happens. But of course, that means all of their workers are going to suffer. Is that your reading of it? Should people have been paid for that first 2 weeks of March?
In theory, yes. If they were signed off because their bosses didn't want to take the ERTI, which obviously made them have to keep the staff on for 6 months when we go back to work. There's people with 10 staff that know they'll probably only need 2. So what they've done is they've done it the easy way out. We're cancelling your contract, we're not renewing your contract, you only had a temporary contract and it's run out.
It actually makes me extremely angry. Employers, it seems to me, have had it very much their own way for a while, especially in a place like this where there's only a few different types of employment. And there's a lot of people out there who are out of work. So there's a big pool of potentially employable people. And that means that a lot of the employers get to call the shots. And of course, they cry all sorts of blue murder that they're having to struggle. And it's very hard running a business, especially in Spain, especially in Gran Canaria, and I appreciate that, I really do. But I think there's a very big comeuppance that needs to be dealt with at some point in the future. We can't have employers who are insisting on paying people black money, as in under the table. We can't have non-declared wages. We've got a worldwide pandemic, and right now that's really coming home to roost. And of course, those employers, they've had benefit of the employees, regardless of how much they've suffered and how hard it is to do business. The simple fact is, if you are doing business and you're employing someone, you're getting benefit from their work. And therefore, you have to find a way to deal with them fairly. So I'd very much like to hear from anyone who's been getting any sorts of negative from their employers. I'd very much like to. I'd be interested in finding out how many are out there who are not treating their employees correctly. Because at the end of the day,
it's a little bit hard. It's a little bit hard though, because as we said from the start, we're trying to be really positive and not name and shame. I've put so many posts up now that I'm trying to sort of be very discreet and say, watch what you're signing before you sign it. You wouldn't sign it in England unless you understood it. You take it home and you Google it. Check what you're going to be paid every month. You're not forced to accept €400 a month when you're really getting 1,200, because at the end of it all, you're both as bad as each other, because when you come to retire or the company closes down, you'll only get 70% of €400 dolman and unemployment money. You won't get 1,200. If you go off on the sick, they don't pay you what they're paying you in black.
I've got to say, I mean, I as much as it's very easy for me to point a finger at employers, and I don't envy most employers, no matter how big or small their business. It's really difficult. It's really difficult to run a business, especially in a place like this. But at the same time, anyone who is taking jobs, we all need to work together a little bit better. People who are gaining employment from an employer need yeah, at the end of the day, I suppose what I'm saying here is perhaps we need to unionize, because at the end of the day, people aren't learning Spanish and therefore they don't know what's going on, and they kind of trust that they're going to be dealt with fairly, and that
Yeah,
isn't always the case.
exactly.
And if
That's
we
why
don't
I
stand up
sorry.
for ourselves, we won't ever be able to change this situation into something that actually works for everyone.
No, that's why I added it to my to-do list, which is growing daily, because basically there's people that started work in February. The bosses said, we'll get it sorted, we'll get it sorted, we'll get it sorted. Now, if they had got it sorted, even if it was only a month and it was a temporary contract, they would be eligible because of the state of emergency. They would have been eligible. What I've got is a screenshot. Sorry, we didn't do your contract. Nothing for you. End of. And it's sad because these people have genuinely waited 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. I am telling everybody from the day that you start in a bar, in a restaurant, wherever you're working, they have to put you on contract. They can cover themselves if you're absolutely crap at your job by doing a trial period. Most Spanish contracts have a trial period for 3 months. They can tell you with 2 weeks' notice, bye bye, or they can tell you with a night's notice, pay you up and bye bye. But you need to be on a contract, and it is very sad.
A message in over Facebook. Can we stop the employer bashing? I just want to be clear. I'm not bashing employers at all. I'm sorry, Mr. Millman, if you feel like we're not helping what you need for us to do here. But at the end of the day, there is a mutual responsibility between employer and employee, and everyone tries in some form to live up to that. In a situation like this, when people are literally going to be going without food, unable to pay any of their debts, so we're not bashing employers at all. But what we are saying is there needs to be a reassessment of the contract between someone who's working and someone who's employing. We need to make sure that that's fair, and that's all we're saying here. So okay, so we've got a few people here also saying employers need more regulation, and there's people who waited for months and they can't claim anything. So it's a really difficult situation. And any of you employers out there, really, there's from my perspective, and I'm absolutely sure from Nicky's perspective, there's really no malice intended towards anyone at all. But what we are saying is, please, everyone needs to wake up. I'm afraid I'm not going to shed any tears for people who are riding their employees hard in a time like this. At the moment, we're in a very difficult situation. Everyone needs to work together a little bit. So, okay, so I mean, what point taken, Nicky? What else has been happening? Obviously, money is becoming a difficult situation for people. So from the information you've seen is that we're looking at probably May before people start to receive some sort of payment.
As far as we were advised, the RT payments will come before the autonomo and employment benefit that they set up.
This is the autonomos are going to be suffering and are always suffering. It's hard being a self-employed person in Spain. I think it's the highest social security payment in Europe, and possibly one of the highest in the world to be a self-employed person. So, you need to have your business sorted out to be able to survive as a self-employed.
The most important thing is, and that's why, as Stephen said, I mean, this isn't, I get all my messages privately because certain people haven't received a contract to finish work. They don't know what they're doing. That happens the world over. In general, I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that everybody gets what they're supposed to be getting as fast as they can. But the autonomos, the business owners, it's going to hit them hard because they have to then preempt the next 6 months so that when we do start back, they're the ones that have to pay the wages, even if they've got no clients in the bars, the restaurants. It's a total nightmare. So this is why they set up the Préstamo Autónomo. It's the eco one from the government. So basically, I can't tell you what they ask. I've presented mine. They just asked for all my documentation, but I haven't had a yes or a no. I haven't even had a reply yet, but I've put it into my system. You can go to your bank's online app and you'll have a gestor, which is like an assistant. Type to them in English. They all speak English, or they've got the Google app, and say to them, I need to apply for the autonomo loan. bearing in mind, this isn't just to have a little money in the bank. This is to get you through these horrible 6 months, because you've got to pay the rental on your businesses, your bills, your electricity, your water, your staff, your stock. Plus, you've also got to pay your taxes, your 3 monthly ones, the end of year ones in July. I spoke to my Hestor yesterday, and I don't have a clue either. It's new to all of us, but all I can say to people is, go straight to your bank. If it's now or in tomorrow morning, you won't get them on the phone. They don't have time. You can't see them because they're all in, most of the banks are in isolation now. You can't actually get to a human being. Go online on your app. If you can't go online on your app, and as many people have said to me, we've got to the doors of the bank and they won't let us in, email them and say, please, can you call me? I need assistance. Or can you email me back because I need to present the documentation for my autonomo loan, because the faster it's in, the faster that it can be paid out. I can't tell you if they're paying them out and to what level, because none have gone through yet.
So there was a video last week that I caught a glimpse of, was sent to me, of a young, I think she was Canarian, entrepreneur, autonomo, and she had applied for her eco. And they gave it to her straight away. However, they gave it to her on the condition that she took this 0% loan with insurance, and that was going to cost her €20 a month over 5 years.
It's sorted. No, it's sorted. I got the link sent to me by a Canarian.
I understand that the statement has been made on it, but we should be aware of what the situation here is. So the statement that was made that followed some of these instances, the Bank of Spain made a very clear declaration. No banks should be profiteering in any sense from these ICO loans. This is a government-run scheme that the banks are instrumental in. But if anyone's trying to sell you insurance to cover these payouts, then you need to get advice. Take advice before you sign anything. And this is the same message all the way, right? Don't sign things without knowing what you're signing and whether or not it's correct. It's important.
Right. That came out about 4 days ago, and then I think it was the day before yesterday, somebody sent me the link to say that the government realised what was happening, and they've actually decreed that it is illegal for banks to gain from the back of a disaster, basically. So it was actually my bank this is with, and I was like, oh my God, 1,200 on top of what I'm asking for is a lot of money. And the life insurance, yes, they do ask for life insurance for loans. They do for mortgages, personal loans. It's to cover them. So if I drop dead tomorrow, they'll get the money back. But it was
these ICO loans are being guaranteed by the government of Spain, and so there is no excuse for it. And okay, some people may have become confused because they're following their normal procedures when they give out a loan, but this is not a loan that people have come to the bank say, hey, I really need to buy a new car for my business. This is a case of survival for most people and most businesses. And so there's been a very clear statement: profiteering off of this situation is to be not only frowned upon but stomped out. So
so the autonomos, you've got your application for it's not that you stop being autonomo and go on the unemployment. It's a system that they've done it through your Mutua, which is like our social security system, that they actually make a payout. It's a set amount, €644, and this is what I'm waiting for in May. I hoped it'd be April. He's presented everything, but he said to me, you're looking at May now. Okay, so you've got that. You've got your
store. That was his statement, was it? It was your Hestor who told you that, is that right?
You present for the unemployment through your Hestor, not through the unemployment system. It's completely separate. And I presented mine Monday last week. It's all in the system, and I'm hoping, touch wood, that on the 10th of May, I'll start getting paid for it. The loans are through your bank. Right. All the loans they're offering are through your bank. That's why I said, please don't ask me. Do it yourself, because all the banks have different application forms, different ways of doing it. So far, I've had about another 350 messages. The autonomo loans are actually set up now with all the system, with all the banks, Santander, Caixa, BBVA. For the workers, not for the self-employed, the rental loans still don't seem to have been set up.
Really? Okay.
It's there in the declaration, in the buoy, in the state bulletin, but the banks haven't got their head around the system yet.
No, sure.
So what the girl was asking for was an autonomous loan that life insurance bumped onto it. We're talking about that need help to pay the rent.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is, one second, I'm just going to have to plug my laptop. Actual so basically, it will be that they're waiting Tuesday of this week that they would be able to offer the service. But unfortunately, I don't know if anybody else has found that the banks have accepted. I'm getting about 100. Sorry, I'm just plugging my charger. There, I've got you.
No,
they're actually. Sorry about that.
I just saw the loop before we came on, but you've been the most expert with technical difficulties for the whole night. So good job. So I mean, listen, I don't want to be all doom and gloom. That's why I wanted to try and get through some of this as early as possible. Obviously, at the end of the day, we've all got to stop thinking that somebody's going to come and bail us all out of every situation. Debts still exist. Utility bills still exist. However, there has been a lot of cushioning of the situation, and Spain seems to have been. They made some of the right noises to begin with, and they were. Let's face it, they were one of the first in Europe to make very clear. Your mate Pedro Sanchez, the Prime Minister of Spain, he was one of the very first leaders to come on and say this is a global problem. We need global solutions. And I should imagine, he was reaching out at that point, but only at the point really that other people were starting to look inwards and realize just quite how serious this was. So, I mean, we're all going to have to try to find ways to work together. And I suppose one of the biggest fears that I have is there's a lot of people on an island like Gran Canaria. We're a small subtropical island off the coast of Africa. We survive off tourism. Tourism is at tourism zero now. They were suggesting that we might have the first hotels being opened by June. That's now not looking very likely, although we may get something happening by that time. But they're thinking that we're not going to start to recover any level of tourism really until something like September. Is that the same as you're hearing?
It's all right. I've just had a message from a bank that's come up in the corner in reply, so I can keep it updating. Yeah, and on Thursday, if I've got everything through, because this is what I said, it's not a criticism in any possible way. It's not up to your bosses or it's not up to anybody else to do it for you. There's certain things that your bosses are eligible to do. If they could get the RT, they've done it for you. The rest, you have to do yourself. Your bank, you open the account. They speak Spanish. They speak English as well. They always have one person. It's up to yourselves to literally, even if it takes you all day, because I can only do the same thing, which is contact them for you. Yeah. And it's impossible. So get everything done. Apply for your loan for your autonomo, apply through your HESTOR for your unemployment for your autonomo, get the information from the bank and keep on at them. You've got nothing else to do. We're at home all day. Yeah. Keep on at them until they answer about the rental. I will be honest with you, there's a lot of nasty landlords out there that are preying on the fact that we're English, very polite and very nice, trying to take rent off people that haven't got it. Basically, tell them the BOE says we can't pay until we've got the money to pay you. We're going for the rental, the ICO, alquileres, and as soon as we have it, we will catch up. If you own more than 8 apartments, we have to pay you 50%. Now, there's a very valid question, and if there's somebody out there, a lawyer or a HESTOR that speaks English that can tell me, how do they know how many properties your landlord's got? Because I could have 45. I could be sitting on a gold mine and saying to you all, I'm sorry, I've got one little bungalow in the south and I need my money off you.
Well, I mean, theoretically, this comes down to black economy and how many people are declaring reality, right? None of us like taxes, right? But my tax advisor, he loves to chuckle at me and say two things are for sure: death and taxes. And I would love to avoid taxes. I actually see taxes as a privilege to pay. I was brought up in England. I never knew anything about taxation or why it was important. I was given that British healthy disrespect of authority. But at the same time, when I came to Spain, I realized just quite how lucky people are in England, because the system works. It creaks and groans, but it works to a large extent. Here in Spain, people are a little bit more on their own. They're left to their own devices. There's very few safety nets, which is why we've got food banks and projects like yours and Jenny's trying to help families who are really just above or just below the poverty line. But now that's going to be all of us to a large extent.
Exactly.
And this is why, I mean, I don't want people who are watching this to think that we're bashing anyone. I'm certainly, I don't have any intention to bash anyone at all. What my general message here is that we all have responsibility. We all need to try and take care of each other, because this is going to hurt a little while longer. This is going to get a little bit difficult. And if we're not helping each other and doing what we can, then all we're being is selfish. It's as bad as deciding that you're going to ignore the lockdown and go out and get yourself infected or pass around disease to other people. So at the end of the day, this is why it's so important that you're willing to come on and see us here, Nicky, because you've spent so much energy trying to make sure you understand what's going on. And at the end of the day, everyone needs to be doing that to some extent. I don't want to sort of pull away what is your business from you, because you spend this time understanding these things. But each one of us needs to be a little bit self-sufficient. We need to look at, what can I do to help my situation? What steps can I take? And we also need to be looking out for other people around us, whether they're workmates, whether they're employers, whether they're employees. It doesn't matter. Every single one of us needs to be thinking in a very different way from what we were just 1 month ago. When everything just carried on as normal, and we, lockdown, great, beer and fags and chocolate, but actually it's not about that. I think you said earlier today, everyone needs to be thinking about really counting your pennies, buying essential stuff, because whatever sum of money you've got available to you, in the main, most people, especially here, do not have spare capital. They do not have spare money to fall back on. And so there's going to be some suffering that goes on. It's why it's so important to be supporting projects like the food banks across the island, particularly in the south.
I've noticed as well, which is really, really hard.
Hello. We've been joined.
What are you looking for, darling?
We're here live on the Canary TV with Nicky Gordon from Ask Nicky. She's just been asked where the laundry basket is, I think, by her husband or son, and so she's just dealing with that. What an amazing woman! And all of you women out there, everyone who is taken this in their stride, who is dealing with homeschooling, with the husband being home. Some people have really started to enjoy it a little bit, but I think a lot of people, there's a lot of frayed edges out there at the moment. But we're trying to do this every Tuesday and Thursday, whenever Nicky is able to spare some time for us. She's a very busy lady. And of course, we've got our loose men who come on at 6 o'clock at night, which some people are not enjoying the fact that those guys have so much fun. But we take this quite seriously as well. The whole reason we do this project at all is so that we can try to bring some of the relevant information to people relatively quickly. And we want to hear what you've got to say. I mean, if anyone's experiencing problems with dealing with work issues, if anyone's experiencing problems with landlords, write to us, tell us about it. Maybe there's things that we can do or say that might help you. I can see Nicky's backstage back again, so I'll bring her back in. But thanks very much for tuning in, all you guys. It really means a lot to us here, because we're working hard to try to make sure you're getting the right info. Hiya, Nicky, how you doing?
I'm fine. I'm back. Right now, basically, as I wrote on Facebook, people fall apart in moments like this. I understand nobody's stupid, nobody's thick, but some of the questions, I will be really honest, it's 3 weeks since the lockdown. You should by now have got your contract signed off, depending on what your boss wanted to do with you, or your RT. You should have made your appointment with the Dole system. They're actually giving Dole appointments for May, because the whole system is overrun, but they're actually contacting everybody. They do it by telephone. So you go on the system, you get a printed off appointment, and they give you a date. At the moment, I think my last one was the 7th of May. But they will call you before then. They just have to log everybody in with a different time and date, but they are getting to them before. You have to be able to speak Spanish, and you have to have your paperwork ready to email off to them, and then it will be in the system. But if you don't do it, you're never going to be in the system. So all those people that are still waiting for contact from their employers, get behind them on the phones. I know they're stressed out, and it's not in a negative way, but all the people that have done right by their employees have now presented. You should just be waiting for either your appointment for them to call you up and take your details and set it up, or for your RT to come through, which was processed by your employer.
Right.
Please don't wait any longer. I've had 6 photographs of, what do I do? Basically, they've still not been in contact with me. I'm calling them and calling them. They're not answering. They have to answer. There may be a reason. Maybe there was some discrepancy. I'm not a Hestor between whether they could take the RT or whether they had to sign you off. There are certain things. I've got people that were on a job offer for the 1st of April, so they were never actually put into the system. I will still ask when I can get through to the people. I will still ask them, can they gain anything because they have a job offer from big companies, but they never got round to starting, and it's heartbreaking.
It is, and there's going to be a lot of stories like this. I mean, and this is why I say, we're definitely not trying to bash employers at all. Let's be clear. Just like we were saying last week about roadblocks and security forces on the streets asking us difficult questions. At the end of the day, they are people too. They're scared. Nobody really knows how to deal with this, and so everyone's trying to make their way with it. And that goes for the employers too. I mean, a lot of employers are looking at losing their businesses. Everything they've built up is suddenly evaporated. I know one chap down in Blue Explorers in Puerto de Morgan. He launched a very big extra part to his business a couple of years ago. And of course, anyone who's ever built a business will know it's very difficult to build a business when you've got something going and then try to make it larger. It's a lot of sweat and tears and blood and anguish. And of course, what he lost out with the tour operator last year who went bang. I think he lost several tens of thousands of euros on that. No hope of getting that back. And now this has come along. As far as he's concerned, he's trying to do right by his employees. I've seen him in action. At the same time, he's got no idea where the money's going to come from and if he's going to have a business at the end of this. But I think he's working hard to try to make sure he can have. And one of his first steps to do that is being straight down the line with people, especially the people who have helped him to get as far as he has so far. And this is all we're saying. Anyone who feels like we come on here to bash anyone, definitely not at all. But what we are saying is we should all stand up for each other as well. We all need to be patient and recognize that everyone is quite worried and everyone's trying to make the right decisions. So let's help each other to make the right decisions, because that's the only way we can get through.
I think it was just misinterpreted when you said it, because I suddenly went, because you're the same as me. We're never here to name and shame. It does no good. What we have to do is learn by it.
I'm sorry for expressing anger about it, but it does make me angry when I see, because I've seen this for a decade here on the island, where people sign employees up for a 4-hour-a-week contract or an 8-hour-a-week contract, but expect them to work 40 or 50 hours a week. And it shouldn't be happening. And this is an opportunity for us to actually sort of look at that, shine a bit of a light on it. We're not trying to bash anyone in particular. But we're going to say Spain is not going to function ever if that's how we continue forward. We're now where it's clear. It's clear to everyone.
No, definitely. If you look at my Facebook page, it's really important, because we have a very, very big issue following on from the coronavirus, which is anybody that's going back to work, whether it be, I don't think it's going to be before maybe July, August, September, But because a lot of the businesses function on tourism, and without tourism, we can't let everybody in because we're just going to reinfect the whole island again. It'll be an ongoing thing. So we have to take our time, and we have to take as much help that we possibly can.
That's right.
Pedro Sanchez actually stated, I know they do it in the UK, but it's never been done over here. It's the UBI, Universal Benefits. So
this is the universal minimum income that people have
Yeah.
been playing with this idea for many years, and people have been experimenting with it in Europe. And Pedro Sanchez, to his credit, took this opportunity, just as a major crisis was really taking hold, to push that to the fore and say, look, we've already been working on this. We're going to see if we can try to bring these plans forward. Basically, there's a giant plan to make sure that every citizen has always got a minimum income, and they're going to try and see if they can trial it during this pandemic. But they're talking about keeping it for a lot longer than that. So it's a very interesting time.
Basically, what they're saying is you've got 25-year-olds that haven't got a job, they've got no children, they've got no dependents, they live at home, they're on €320 a month, so they can never go up in the world until they can find work. Kids that have not got the first job yet, and mine included, but it's like it is. And what it would do, it would give a leveler. So, for example, if I had 2 children underage, under 16, living at home with me, and I had my mother that I was taking care of, they allocate it per head, per capita within the family. So there would be a minimum that you would be able to survive on. Now, for people like Jenny, it would be a gift from heaven.
This is Jenny Heimer who runs the food project.
Jenny from the block. No, but it would be perfect, because then if this happened, and it happened straight away, but it's in a perfect world, leave that on hold, because until we see it, seeing's believing. At the moment, there's promise of rental loans, autonomo loans, art is going to be sorted and paid out by the 10th of April. It's not happened, but when you look at the sheer amount of people applying, it's normal. Things take time. All I can say to people is we'll update you all. When you go back to work in September, August, hopefully some of you in July, remember, Brexit is the 20th of December. If you haven't got your residencia, you need to be on a minimum 6-month contract with no trial period to get it through in time. So basically, on my to-do list, it's not because I know everything. It's what I do. I'm telling people every day, get your translations done now while you're sat at home for your residencias. I put the number on it. Call the old age pension line in the UK and get your European S1 form so that you can have your residencia as a retired person with a state pension over here. Make the most of these weeks, because it might take 2 weeks to arrive in the post, but you've got it. Jenny's details are there because Jenny has a translation agency and she does them at a really affordable price, and it's accepted in the police station. So basically, if you need your marriage certificate translated, birth certificates, get it all done now.
You mentioned Brexit, and of course there's already rumblings that that the final Brexit date may have to be put back and put on with the current situation. That hasn't been announced yet. So as things currently stand, it's definitely the end of this year. That's supposed to be the final deal for British people. I'm just wondering, did you see there was a message put out this morning by the British Embassy on their Facebook page, Brits in Spain. If you're a British person in Spain, then that's where you need to go for direct information from the British government to deal with what your situation might be. But they put out a message today saying you are being strongly advised. If you are a British resident, you're a resident in the UK, and you find yourself in Spain right now, you are being strongly advised by Her Majesty's government to return to the UK now. Essentially, this is happening across the world. Countries are trying to gather in who it is that lives in their country that they're going to have to deal with one way or another. Because at the end of the day, that's what we pay the politicians for, isn't it? They're supposed to be making the hard decisions to help us at times like this. And again, I'm not a politician basher at all. because I think that a lot of people go into politics for the right reasons, but it can be a dirty game, like every other game, you know. So I think there's a very, very strong case here for people to really focus and take stock of what their situation is. If you've been living the high life and spending some months there and some months here, and you've never quite deregistered or registered yourself in one system or the other, then warning, you're in danger right now. You really need to just calmly sit down, figure out who is it that I need to speak to make sure that I'm going to be looked after. I don't know. I don't know what. I haven't heard any situations of people who are not in the health system have any problems right now. But of course, that's a worry and a concern. And of course, I think all medical staff will deal with any ailment that comes in this situation. But yeah, what do you know more about that? Anything?
Well, basically, the European Blue health cards are only supposed to be for people here on short to long stay holidays. That you can have a European or English speaking doctor allocated to you. And the problem we've got is that after 6 months, if you're living here on the island, you cannot use that as your normal doctor.
No.
This is an European allocated doctor for up to 6 months stays. Now they're tightening up. I know all the ladies in Maspalomas, and they wave at me when I go in, and how many have you got today? And it's lovely. The care's there, but it's only for emergency treatment and for prescriptions. So if you go along to that doctor and say, I've got a lump on my nose that I'm really worried about, or I've got a really bad stomach, but it's carrying on and on. The first thing they say is, fine, get it sorted when you go home. Because so many people after 10 years are still living off those blue cards. You want to be into the system, you want to have an allocated doctor so you can have blood tests, everything done for you. You have to pay into the system.
The healthcare here in Spain is actually great. I mean, it's one of the highest levels of care that I've seen anywhere in Europe and probably most places around the world. And that surprised me a little bit, because when I was coming to Spain, I must admit, I was a little bit ignorant. I thought, well, maybe it's going to be a little bit, I'm probably playing with my health status here because they're not going to be able to look after me the same way as they do in the UK or in Ireland. What I found is actually they're a little bit better supported. This is a social democracy here in Spain, whereas England has a tendency to flip-flop between right and left, red and blue. You've seen The Matrix, obviously. But yeah, so I was always very, very impressed with the level of healthcare that is received here and how compassionate the medical staff are. I mean, they're in an awful situation right now. I cannot even imagine being one of those people right now who's having to basically put themselves on the front line, put themselves at risk on a daily basis, isolate themselves from their own families. And this is happening everywhere, of course. But yeah, so I don't think there's really many reasons for people to not do what they need to ensure that they're taken care of. And there's a lot of people, I think, who are quite they're quite laissez-faire about it. They say, "Oh, well, I'm all right. I'm okay. I get looked after. I've got the NHS back in the UK." Well, hey, I've just looked at how many flights we've got coming out of Gran Canaria this week. We've got 3, and the UK government is asking anyone who is a British subject or a resident of the UK, not a British subject necessarily, but a resident of the UK, to be on those flights if they can do. And so word of warning to anyone out there: if you're not in a regularized situation here in Spain, if you
make the most of it.
If you have an opportunity to get back to the UK where you are going to be looked after because you are somewhat in the system, then that's a very good idea right now. Very good.
Yeah. Borrow the money from family, even if they have to do a bank transfer or and express it through the post office. Do it. I said that the first Saturday because it really worried me. Those of you, it's not a disappointment. We're all here. We're not going to change. We'll all be here when you come back. Fantasy Island never goes away, and the people, we always look the same. So please, if you haven't found the work and you're stuck in a situation where you don't even know how you're going to pay this month's rent, contact the consulate, find out if you can get any assistance, even if you have to ask on Facebook. I don't know about flights. I don't know. Somebody said there's one going out on the 2nd of May. Somebody said there's one this week. Please do your homework.
Yeah.
You've got the time on your hands. Borrow the money off a friend or family. Pay it back. Get yourself home. Because over here, you're going to find your repeat prescriptions will work. They will work if you're registered with a doctor. We've got workers over here who couldn't be bothered because unfortunately they work very late to the early hours of the morning, haven't bothered registering in the town hall, taking it to the health centre with a copy of the work contract that's got the social security number on, and registering with a doctor. I have an app. I've had 3 phone calls this week from doctors from my family, issues over medication and different things, and it's working fabulously. I called yesterday. I got the phone call at 9 o'clock this morning. It is working, but if you don't put yourselves in the system, you can't use it.
Yeah.
So there's nothing we can really do until it's all over.
Yeah, I think there's also we've got to remember as people who have come from the British Isles, UK, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, we are essentially an immigrant population here, and because there's a lot of people who live in the same sort of areas, they find themselves in a fairly relaxed, lucky situation where they don't have to learn Spanish at all. They live their entire lives in English, and I think there's often not an ignorance. I don't want I don't want to bash people at all. People don't always realise quite how important it is, and now we've got a wake up call. Every single one of us. There's not one of us here who was really well prepared for this situation. And I know there's people out there who also they're spinning conspiracy theories around, and those things might be true. Right? I've got no idea, but one thing is very, very clear: everything just stopped. If you've ever seen anyone stop the world, I want to get off. Well, I'm afraid we've stopped the world, and you can't get off. You're going to have to sit here and work with everyone else. And this is it. I mean, this is my whole reason for doing any of the stuff that we do here on the island. Is community matters. It's really important, and it's not until we get a moment like this around the world and where we're living that we start to recognize that we need each other, and we need to be working with the people who are supposed to be governing us as well. And yes, there's a lot of authoritarians out there. There's a lot of reasons why we might not want to be in the system. But let's face it: if you use Facebook, if you have a mobile phone, if you use Google, you're already tracked, right? You're not avoiding anything other than your own healthcare and your own ability to survive a situation like this. It's difficult. We've had a lovely message in from Donna Hewitt in Playa del Inglés there. She also does similar types of work to yourself on occasion for people, helping to sort out paperwork, a bit of translation, and she's looking at seeing if we could set up some sort of group to help people out. We're working on that right now, Donna. We very much want to hear from anyone who is willing to assist, because at the end of the day, as amazing as Nicky is, she can't possibly deal with all the different things that are happening and are going to happen, and so we have to give the girl a break at some point before September. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right, Donna, as well. People are unfortunately never really quite know what they need to do, but the information is out there. So we all have to not spend our time pointing fingers at others. Nobody told me.
Exactly. No, you are totally right.
We have to be kind to ourselves as well. I mean, we can't blame ourselves. Oh, I should have done that. I should have done this. Forget all of that. None of that matters right now. What really matters right now is staying well and trying to make sure that other people stay well, and your family and the people who you love and the people who you're communicating with now in this situation. Everyone needs to think a little bit more closely about that, and how can we get through this a little bit better and come out of it stronger people. It's a difficulty.
Exactly. That's why I asked from the start. Jobs and Help is the perfect. Gran Canaria info is linked in by people that are in the north of the island with Alex, but that's more for the tourist side. I know that. Jobs and Help, everything that comes up is there.
Yeah.
We all do the same. Simra, Sarah, Karen, Jill Preston Doyle, we all do the same. Why do I discreetly keep on saying If you need help with stuff, whether it's your application online for your dole, contact the person that normally helps you with your paperwork. We're not here for free advertising, because right now we're just helping people. As Donna said, the person that they all contact is either Simra, me, or Sarah, or Joe Preston Doyle. But not everybody.
We must remember there are other towns as well.
No, but I'm saying they've got kids. They've
Yeah.
got little kids. I don't. Somebody had to answer, because I can't see all these people troubled. It's just the way I am. I can't say no. So as I said, and with Donna, I totally agree, but it's not to have a new page. Please, when you see a post from me and you have extra or more, or you've actually done it personally, comment on it, because jobs in help is to help. There's no jobs.
Yeah.
Forget the jobs. There's no jobs. So let's create it, as long as Steve's willing and there's none of this backsnapping and public humiliation. No.
Yeah,
If somebody puts an application into the bank tomorrow and gets a loan, please share it with us on Jobs and Help. Nick, we got a loan and this is what we had to do.
I suppose that was what I was reaching for when I was saying that, we're an immigrant population here. I think it was 2014, the foreign national population on Gran Canaria went over 100,000 for the first time. It sunk back down a little bit then, so I think we're on 80 or 90,000 foreigners. The way that foreign population divides up here on the island is actually very similar to the tourism numbers. So it's about a third Brits, it's about a third Germans, although that's dropping a little bit. About 15 to 20% from Nordic nations, about 15 to 20% of non-Canarians are coming from England and Spain. And then the other 10% or so, or whatever it is, I didn't count, but the other 10% or so are made up from just a wild array of different nationalities. So there is a large, we're talking like 12.5% of the island's population here are non-Spanish, right? If you look at municipal registers, nobody likes to vote here, right? This has been one of my big bugbears for ages. I never voted before I came to this island. I never voted in an English election until I came to this island, actually. Because I've been very lucky, I've been very privileged. I've seen the politicians and town halls and this democracy, for all of its flaws and all of its problems, I've seen it function very closely, up close. And in a place like this, you get a much clearer view of how these different things work. I think especially if you've lived in England or been educated in England, you kind of shun the whole idea of politics. It's for that group of elites up there and a few others who made it through. I don't think it's quite like that on the municipal level. And every single one of us who lives here, who's properly registered as a citizen here, has the right to vote, but nobody does. And the reason I mention that is we look at San Bartolomé de Tirajana, 56,000 people or thereabouts officially living in San Bartolomé de Tirajana. According to them, back in 2015, which is the last time I checked their numbers, it was less than just over 1,000 people. 1,074 people who were registered on the municipal registers in San Bartolomé de Tirajana are British. Now, I believe there's more than 1,000 Brits living in San Bartolomé de Tirajana. That's 56,000 people in that municipality. But as far as the town hall at that time was concerned, the British vote didn't matter, because out of that 1,074, 60 of them would vote. And so if we're not actually engaging a little bit with what goes on, then we're always going to find ourselves on the outer edges, and we're scrabbling around to try to feed each other information. We've got barstool philosophers telling us how it was in their day and how they think it should go. But actually getting the right information together. That's why I'm glad that you appreciate the work of Alex Bramwell from Gran Canaria Info. He's a very lucky boy. His father is British. He was born here and raised between here and England. So he's probably one of the most fully immersed and integrated people I know, who understands both cultures, and he uses that quite wisely. He doesn't, unlike us, he doesn't do long sprawling articles. He just tries to give very clear and concise information. And this is what we need right now. Every single one of us, we all have a life experience. We all get by one way or another. We all understand our little bit of what goes on. We need to try and share that little information with people.
I totally agree with you, and Alex probably will as well, because the business of us having a special page for this and let's create a new page, it doesn't work, because so many with the goodness of the heart want to help, but it only needs the information to go a little bit astray and not be quite correct with residencias, with paperwork, with applications, and it you can't look at it and not go on and correct it. I spend my life very politely saying to people, no, that's for your residencia, not for your knee number. No, that's for your knee number, not your residencia. No, you don't need that. You don't need to register in the town hall for your knee number. It's all on my page. Not because I know, it's to stop people asking me all the time. Look at it, it's there. All the way through Brexit.
I think it's something that, you know, without sounding negative or abusive towards anyone, but all of us need to just for this next few months, if we can, just try to take a bit of responsibility on ourselves. Stop looking for anyone to blame, and start to just try to figure out, how can I get through this in the best possible way, and how can I assist those around me who are not going to. We need to grow up a little bit. Every single one of us, grow up, do the homework. You weren't suddenly imbued with all of this knowledge and information. You don't have Pedro Sanchez calling you every night and saying, Nicky, it's just like this, could you tell them? You're going out there, you're doing the reading, you're doing the translating, and you're trying to disseminate that information out. We all need to do that a little bit.
We've all been there. I came to the island. I didn't speak any Spanish. I went through the system with no internet to ask anybody online, does anybody know how you do this? Does anybody know how to do that? Through my own choice, I was on my own with my 4 kids, and it was hell. And that's why I help, because when I turned around, there was nobody to ask. You couldn't just walk in, and nobody had got experience on what you can actually claim for over here, how you have to do it. And that's why I can't not share the information if I know. I don't know everything. I can tell you what I know, and if I can't, I'll find out.
I think you're a perfect example. I think it was Oscar Wilde who said how sublime it is to have suffered and become strong. It's these are strange times. Nicky, I think we're probably going to knock this on the head for tonight. Is there anything super important that you want us to know before we leave it till Thursday?
All right, just for the post today about the claves, which is the key to get into the systems, because
this is the electronic key to be able to get.
The electronic key. There is. I managed to find the link in English to actually get one, and it doesn't work. Yeah. So 5 people that I know really well tried it and all sent me the same screenshot. It doesn't work. We'll find out between us all. The first person that it does work for, tell us exactly what you did, because the idea is we can't go into the Hacienda offices, the tax office or the Social Security and ask them for a clave, the key. Normally, once you've got it, you activate it, and you can get all these certificates that the banks are going to ask for, that you've got no debts, that you've paid your taxes, different things. Nobody's got one. I have. It took me years. I only got one last year because I had to get a special piece of paper for something, and I was obliged. But I'm one of the lucky ones. So I got it. Don't worry that you can't get into it now. The link's there. You are reminded to every now and then check on the link, because it will access you. They don't give it you straight away with a code or anything. They send it by post. It might take a week or 2. But if you want to do your tax return by the 1st of July, your yearly one that everybody who earns over a certain amount must do, you can do it online, but you need this clave. So we can't all go queuing up outside the Hacienda and ask for one, because it's all closed. So I'm trying to find ways to get us access, but nobody answers the phone to tell me how the system works, because it's not working at the moment.
I mean, I think sheer weight of numbers is going to start to change some of these things. I remember one of the last visits we had from the British consulate, and I think he was the European manager for Brexit for the British consulates across Spain, or the British Embassy.
Tim Jeffries.
I think that's right, yeah. And we were talking then about the fact that there is provision in Spain for people to have a very basic level of healthcare, even if they haven't got contract, and even if, And you brought up at that meeting that nobody here in Canary Islands has been able to get it, and I can't help but feel that part of the problem here is not so much a system that doesn't work, but a group of potential system users, people like us, who don't communicate with each other and definitely don't communicate with the authorities when something isn't working properly. So now that we need it, now we're trying to make it work, right?
Yeah.
I think we all need to be quite calm. We need to spend a little bit, at the end of the day, there's some really positive sides to all of this as well. There's a lot of people who are reassessing their relationship with themselves, with work, with family. They're getting to know each other again, for good, for better or for worse. And hopefully people are looking out for each other as well.
And I just wanted to say as well that I've been in contact with the British consulate, and they're only a really small group, but they are absolutely rushed off their feet. They're trying to move mountains. They're the ones that sit silently in the background. They have the limitations because I think there's only about 5 or 6 of them, but they are doing everything they can. I love them to bits, but they're fighting up there now so that when we come out of lockdown, we want to try and stay down here in the south to present all our paperwork for our residencies before Brexit. They are doing everything they can. They are moving mountains. They are sourcing flights as soon as they know. Obviously, they'll post it or they'll contact, but I know for a fact that they are not just sitting there letting everybody else get on with it. They are. I've spoken to them over the last couple of days, and they are taking care of the big issues, making sure that we're all protected. And it's a nice thing to know. And I'd just like to say before I go that I'm very, very sorry for Boris. My heart went out for his girlfriend and his unborn baby. And it's moments like this that I really appreciate. I hate seeing all the Facebook stuff in the UK because it's scary. People need to do what we've done, and they're not doing it. They're trying to do it, but they're not doing it.
Well, I think there's a lot of people. I've seen a huge outpouring of love. There's a lot of people trying to look out for each other, and I suppose for what it's worth, I mean, I'm nobody, right? I'm just like you, except a bit lazier, right? I'm not as hardworking as you, and I fancy myself as someone who works hard. But we all need to try to find a bit of compassion here in this situation. We've been given a gift in some ways. We've had a chance to just stop, and all the things that were important a month ago, now they're of less importance. They're not our focus. Our focus now is get through this. And I just want to say one last thing as well before we sign off. The people who are renting from their landlords, if your landlord is looking for your rent, be honest with them about the situation, but don't be afraid. There is no landlord at all who can evict you during this state of emergency, and indeed for the next 6 months. Spain has protected every renter in Spain, so you're not going to get evicted by just telling the truth to your landlord. The landlord, of course, is suffering as well, but at the same time, we have to find compassion for each other. But right now, nobody's going to be evicted, so stay where you are. If you're a resident somewhere other than here, try to get there. But don't worry, we've got you. If you're here, we're a close-knit community. We seem like a big island, but actually there's a small group of people who are acting within our community, and more every week I see. So, talk to people. One last thing, one website or Facebook group that we certainly haven't mentioned yet is the CAB, the Citizens Advice Bureau Spain.
I don't follow it. I go with government.uk.
Regardless of it, there are tens of thousands of people and hundreds of thousands of people who do follow it, and they give great information. They work extremely hard. I think they're based in southern Spain. I remember the lady who set it up about 4 or 5 years ago, and it was just a group of volunteers like us, people volunteering information and taking the time to speak to people in authority, taking the time to get the right answers to the questions, and then documenting it. And so for anyone who isn't getting enough information from us, and we're doing our best to try and get you as much of the right information, that's another great resource to look at. So here in Gran Canaria, certainly Jobs and Help GC on the Facebook groups, a great resource. Ask Nicky, of course, putting lots of documents out there. But I would also look at Citizens Advice Bureau Spain, CAB Spain.
I was asked, no, it's not to go against what you're saying. I was actually asked by the British consulate to use their site because CAB, a lot of it's from mainland Spain and the things differ. So I'd say yourselves, the Canary News, myself for asking questions either on here or on the Jobs and Help page, along with Simra and Sarah and all of the rest of my amazing, we meet up in the police station at 6 o'clock in the morning. Do it. But I would say keep on the government one, the gov.uk, because
it's like everything. I think it was Billy Connolly who said, he was talking about religion at the time. Never trust a man who only has one book. So if you're getting all of your information from just one source, you can probably expect to not always get it perfectly right.
Yeah.
So let us all, and we can all share information, right? We can talk it over. We can see if we've got it accurate. If we've got it accurate, we can make sure other people have got that information as well. Nicky, you've been wonderful. Thank you so much for spending time with us. So you're going to come back with Thursday? Thursday, right. So ask Nicky Thursday at 7:05 after the round of applause. Those applauses are getting better. I've noticed.
The whole road was echoing tonight. We're getting there.
A wonderful thing, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, like I've been saying for a couple of weeks, this is a wonderful little ritual. It's a minute of your day, right? And I know everyone's busy, but 1 minute of your day just to do something with everyone else and to say, we're not ignoring what's going on. It's not all about us. It is about all of us, and that's all there is to it. So lots of love. Thank you very much, Nicky. We'll see you next Thursday, or this coming Thursday, sorry, at 7:05 here on the Canary TV. Thank you all, everyone who's been watching, everyone who's joined us, anyone who's contributed on our comments. We want to hear more from anyone who is concerned, who's got something to say. If you don't like what's happening with employers, if you don't like what's happening with universal minimum payment, if you think the Spanish government's doing a great job, we don't get any nurse bashing or police bashing on here. We don't want any of that. But what we certainly do want is to hear what's going on in your world. Whether you're in Gran Canaria, we've got people joining us from all over the place, the UK primarily, but also all over Europe. So what's happening where you are? We want to find out more. We want to see videos and photos, and we want to know what's concerning you so that we can try to help you in some way, if we can. So anyway, till next time, Lily's back on with her fitness regime. Have you been joining Lily at midday every day?
No, I haven't had a chance, but I would like to. I like Mr. Motivator as well. I prefer the 2,000 beans and the sofa.
She's doing what we're doing, but in her way, right? So what she is a fitness instructor.
She's amazing.
She's a psychologist. She's a woman in the world standing on her own 2 feet and supporting herself, regardless of all, and you'll recognize that those sorts of things. And so I've got a lot of respect for what she did, because the first thing she did was she contacted us when this state of emergency happened. She said, can I just try to do something for people to be able to not be sedentary in their houses for the next month? And whether people love it or hate it, it's irrelevant. We're here just being a bit of a constant. So anyway, lots of love to all of you. Look after yourselves, look after each other, and we'll see you all tomorrow, I hope, and see you, Nicky, on Thursday. Thanks very much.
Bye for now.
Bye.